I think a lot of businesses, Google included, they're trying to keep up. Embracing changes as they come, paying attention to it, making sure that you're not overlooking the basics and the things that are supposed to be done just to keep chasing the new and fun. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining the Foremost Media Marketing Chat podcast. This is your host, Evan Fasiger, and I'm joined with the other host, John Ballard, the CEO and co-founder of Foremost Media. John, how are you doing today?
Hey, good, Evan. I can't believe it's almost 2024. It just flew by this year. I say that every year, but this year was even faster.
Yeah, I agree. I still think I'm in one of those camps, though, that keep saying they look back and feel like last year was 2019, and the past 4 years have just kind of gone by without anything, any delays with anything. But here we are. It is going to be 2024, probably by the time this podcast is going to be released. And I think it was a pretty eventful year for 2023, wouldn't you say?
It's been a crazy year. A lot of stuff going on in marketing and just life in general. So let's dive into it. I'm excited to talk about what the future brings for 2024 in our opinions.
Yeah. And, I think that we could probably turn this into a podcast completely about AI, but I don't think we want to do that. Although ignoring that would be definitely an error if we're talking about how 2024 marketing, things that we expect to see. Anything that's top on your list?
I wanted to start with something a little different, something that you shouldn't do in 2024. So I've got this friend named Evan Fasinger, and he gave me the brilliant idea of texting my wife messages from AI in the morning just to say hello or I love you or whatever. And Evan, that sounded like a brilliant idea to me. So I downloaded ChatGPT on my phone and I started sending text messages. The first one I sent, my wife storms out of the bedroom and she's like, "What the heck? You got a girlfriend or something? You've never written anything this nice for me." So that was the first and last AI text I sent to my wife. So don't do that in 2024.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out, I guess, in 2024 if my wife actually listens to this podcast or not, when my secret comes out that I've been using AI to text her on a regular basis.
Whoops, I guess I just threw you under the bus. Maybe we need to have somebody edit that part out. But
no, I say we leave it. It'll be a good test.
Yeah.
But I think you bring a really great point with that. I mean, there's a lot of fun uses for AI. There's a lot of professional uses for AI. And of course, AI is going to be a major part of marketing in 2024 because it has to be, and I think that the gap's going to widen between the companies that really choose to embrace it and those that choose to fight it. But with that, I think that the BS meter for AI, that is going to increase quite a bit. And if you're of the mindset that you can just use AI and put everything that it says out there, I think that's going to end up actually hurting a lot of companies that think they're embracing AI. They're just doing it in the wrong way.
Yeah, it is easy to spin out an article. It's tempting to not even read it sometimes or really put much thought into it. But, I think what marketers can do, I was reflecting on this and how to embrace AI for content creation, which I think is really going to be a big trend in 2024. Is you've got to add experience. That's one thing AI cannot do. So if you're writing an article about a tactic for marketing, for example, add some experience. What have you seen? What kind of results have your customers experienced? That's something that AI just can't generate. And I think that AI and search engines are going to start to look for that experience part of that equation in there to make sure that you really are writing this and it's a valid article. And I think users, can see like right through a purely AI generated article as well. But, that's not to say you shouldn't be using it. I think it's a great tool to kind of review your writing, give you some ideas, compare some of the other articles out there to what you're writing. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it for content creation.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's so easy just to have something added, spun up, but just because it's easy doesn't mean it's good. So one thing that I do expect to see in 2024, because, well, we're already seeing it now, so there's not really any Nostradamus sort of predictions here, but there's going to be that flood of AI content that's being created. And as that AI flood happens, there needs to be more checks to see what's going to be quality content, right? So there's going to be that gap that I was talking about, or really people that can, of course, use AI, be more efficient. But if you're just using it to create the entire article and put it out, there's no, that's content farms, right? I mean, those were a thing years ago until, Panda came through and, made it not, as usable for it. That's what this is, right? It's just content farms, the content spinning, some of the old school tactics, but Google's smarter now. And, if you take a look at, the experience, I think that that's great, being able to actually put some experience that's going to separate your articles, your contents from those that are just using AI. And, that's why they added the experience to the eat, right? So they've got experience, expertise, authoritiveness, and trustworthiness. Those are still going to be major signals because Google and all the other search engines, they need to show content that's trustworthy, right? Hits on all those different aspects, because then it's going to be high quality content, so that the product that they give, which, is content a lot of times, is going to actually be good and not just part of that AI content farm creation.
Yeah, and I think, Google's going to start to lean more on the engagement metric as well. If it's not a good article, people aren't going to stick around to read it. So, make sure you're writing good quality, engaging stuff. People aren't bouncing in and out of your content because they know it's AI generated. So, a good result on the search engines doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get people engaging and converting. So,
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to another thing that I think is worth talking about in 2024 is the search generative experience, right? SGE from Google. So, you mentioned that ranking high, getting traffic to the websites, that was always the goal with SEO, right? You want to show up, be the result, be the answer. Google shows your website. Google then, the user then clicks on the link that's on Google and goes to your website. And then from there, focusing on conversion rate optimization and, other aspects to actually turn that into a lead and, of course, a customer. So with SGE, it becoming more prominent, taking up a lot of space on the search engine result pages for it. They originally said it was going to be just a test that was going to end in December 2023, but they took that away. So they removed that little asterisk there that was saying this was a test for until December 2023. And it makes it lead to believe that it's going to be introduced maybe sooner than some people were expecting into the SERP. So what do you think about that, John? Have you played around with that much?
can you back up a little bit just for some of our listeners that might not know what SGE stands for and what it is? Can you just kind of give a little picture there?
Yeah, so SGE is going to be for Google. It's a search generative experience, and that's Google using AI or generative AI to basically try to answer the questions on the search as a result pages. So not getting into a bunch of technical information, with large language models and, everything else that actually goes into AI. The easiest way to sum it up is that it's going to be you entering to Google, typing in your question. It's going to use AI to answer your question directly on the SERP, as opposed to providing you just links, of websites to click on to then go find your answer.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting model. Back to your original question, what I'm afraid of for our customers and for our own sake is that people won't be clicking into the website anymore if Google's answering all the questions on their site. And it's an interesting model from their business, perspective as well. If people aren't flicking through to ads and stuff like that to go look at websites and they're just answering all their questions, what's what's Google going to change for a revenue model? So lots of questions around that, but I've seen some of it. It's kind of cool. Sometimes it does a good job. Sometimes it's a little off, like most AI stuff.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting too, because, is this a 2024 where this is going to really take over, or maybe it's a 2025, right? Are we still a ways out before the average end user is going to use it and trust it? That'll be the interesting, I guess, thing to watch as the year unfolds, because if you think about it from an end user's perspective, when they're going to the website, they're typing in a question, right? Or they're looking for information from it. They really, most circumstances, just want that answer back to them, right?
Yeah.
So, if they can get the answer back quickly, easily, then yeah, I could see SGE, taking off, having a major impact on the way, websites function in SEO in the industry as a whole, right? I mean, it takes you from focusing on the top level or top funnel pieces of content, trying to get people in, answering questions, to maybe, focus more on the mid funnel, right? The types of searches that still are going to require a click because it's more than just a answer to the question, that somebody might click in or, type into Google in order to receive. So that'll be interesting. But you mentioned how AI also, returns incorrect information. So if the end users are using it and they roll it out, it's not producing things that they trust or, believe in for it, then, do they start to question a lot more? Do they just ignore it? It becomes something that a feature that's not used ever. Do they have to still click down to get it? Or does it actually show them, good results and it provides a better user experience?
Yeah, I've got a prime example for that. I was looking to write an article for a customer up in the, vacation area of Wisconsin here, and he wanted to highlight some of the restaurants that are on lakes near his town. So, I start with AI and I kind of like, hey, just give me some suggestions on which restaurants are good on lakes in this town. And it came back with a bunch of restaurants in that town, but none of them were on lakes, and it implied that. So, I mean, I think they've got a ways to go. I mean, that's something maybe a local would know, but Google doesn't at this point have access at the, what is actually waterfront dining and what isn't. So it's like you said. I mean, I think there's some trust factors they got to get through there to really make that work well. But things are improving every day. So
Well, yeah, and there's so many different, models out there right now. Clearly, ChatGPT, is the big one, and then Bard was Google's trying to use Gemini, which they had a really cool release video that came out, really talking about how much better it was than at least GPT-4, and then it turned out that video was actually a dramatization, I guess, of what it actually could do. So yeah, things are going to change, and I think a lot of businesses, Google included, they're trying to keep up, right? I mean, Bing actually released the first kind of generative AI experience when it comes to search on there with answering the questions, and yeah, I used it. They were still providing links, and it made me initially think, hey, this is going to be ads, right? I mean, ads are going to be important with it. And I think, depending on what type of business you run, really making sure that you're optimized for AI itself, is going to be beneficial because, if you think, in regards to if it answers the question, it says 0-click search result, there's no reason to go onto the website. Yeah, there's not a lot of value there for the website, to optimize their site for the content that the AI is just going to take and produce and, essentially get the credit, right? But if you're like an e-commerce brand, right, you're selling a product and somebody starts, they start using that SGE and they're typing in what's the best product, for this, you want to be shown, right? So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to what it's using to optimize for, those different factors. So you can become the recommendations, and, that's going to have a big impact on all of those affiliate sites, right? Because I mean, clearly, if you're listening to this, podcast, you're probably in the industry, so none of this is a surprise. But so many of those questions that you're answering or asking Google, trying to find the best product for something and looking at all those review sites are affiliate links. They're just sites making money, and it's hard to really trust some of those, which leads to another aspect where is Google where people are going to continue to go, like social medias or like search engines in general, or do they start to turn to more of those alternative places for search, like social media, right? TikTok gets a lot of searches already. YouTube's already been called the second largest search engine for a long time. Pinterest, all of those are really something to keep an eye on from people looking and searching. Reddit, if gets a lot because it's user generated content versus a lot of AI created content and everything else that some of the search engines have.
So a good segue for what I was had on my list for things to watch in 2024 too was like short form video. I don't think as a business you can ignore that anymore. I mean, I think, like you said, people are searching TikTok now for product solutions or suggestions or just how-to things. And their filters are getting better every day, so you can filter by recent. And one of the things that Foremost is going to focus on a little bit more is short-form video and influencer marketing. But along with that, AI has made video production, image enhancement, so much better that you can produce that stuff without as much effort as you used to in the past, in my opinion.
Yeah, the editing, I mean, everything has just become so much easier that it doesn't take as much skill, right, to actually get the editing. Now, making it interesting, actually going through
Yeah.
creative, that's something that isn't being replaced as of yet for it. So yeah, I think short form video, just other forms of content versus just the written word. I mean, we've been preaching podcasts and videos for a while now, and I think 2024 you're going to continue to see that is going to continue to grow, especially if there is so much content spam created from AI.
So we talked a lot about AI. Is there anything else on your list of 2024 things to watch that, you feel like are really important for our marketing audience?
Well, one thing I think is, not forgetting about the tried and the true, right? Because there's always going to be those different shiny objects. There's always going to be different, marketing tactics to use, but having a good strategy is what's important. You can't neglect the basics just because, there's all these new things. There might be easier ways to implement them, right? And there might be other ways to get, some of the different results for it, but you need to still dial in on everything else, right? Focus in on the user experience. That's going to be increasingly important as, they're analyzing everything for it, but it's always been important. You want to make sure that your website or your app or whatever somebody's engaging with you on is easy to use, frictionless experience for it. That's going to be important from, search, conversion, user, everything, right? So not getting too distracted, I think, is really something that is going to be important to remember as all these new tools, all these new things, and all these new possibilities start coming out.
I swear to God, you're looking at my notes. One of the last things I wrote down in really big bold letters was you need to review your marketing strategies, see what's working and double down on that. Google AdWords saw about 9.5% increase last year. That still works. It's timely. You can pay for results. You can get there quickly. Like you said, maybe you can enhance it a little bit, but go into 2024 with a good strategy and not all new stuff. Don't put all your stuff into short form video. Keep working on SEO. Keep developing good content. Do the things that have been working for you and make sure you have a plan. I think that's the biggest thing. Plan out your year, what you're going to produce, what you're going to accomplish, set some goals.
Yeah, and also clearly you can't ignore GA4 anymore, right? So when you're looking at the analytics and the data, I think it's time that I see a lot of pushback still, even though it's you have to use it, right? UA is done, GA4 is here, and that's something that I still see a lot of marketers sometimes just voicing open concerns, and that's going to change, right? I mean, there's going to be a lot of different features I expect to be added to that, and actually being able to take a look at the data, use a little bit more, but it's just using what you have and what's available.
The other thing I wrote down on my list that we haven't talked about yet is voice search. I think my kids got a couple Alexas or something like that for Christmas. I mean, there's just more and more of that stuff invading our homes. My remote on my TV, I can talk to it now. That's going to become more and more important to make sure you're kind of optimizing for long tail type questions on your site because it's using the net still and some AI technology to go search and find answers for that stuff. So if you want to be relevant, you should think about incorporating some of that voice search into your strategy.
Yeah, especially local businesses, and everybody's just using the voice chat. That was something that I remember that being, 3, 4 years ago when those devices first started getting pretty popular, and that was the big thing, right? I mean, everybody had the Alexa, and everybody was looking to make sure that their products were optimized for it, so that when people said, "Hey, Alexa, order me batteries," they'd order the batteries that you had. Now,
Mm.
I remember at the time thinking, I find some of that a little. I don't want to say far fetched, but it just wasn't quite there yet, right? For a lot of different products, because you look at products, maybe batteries was a bad example because essentially if you say double or triple A or whatever you're looking for, I don't think there's a lot of too many people at least that are really diehard brand believers on certain batteries, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm projecting, and it is just me who always generally buys the ones that are priced right. But I think a lot of that, talking about reviews and everything else with it. But if you're asking for suggestions on the hours, right, making it easy for somebody to contact your business, even if they're looking for the business, so they're using the voice chat or plumber, who's a plumber by me, things like that, I think will be really adopted a lot faster than some of the more national aspects with when it comes to voice.
Yeah, it's amazing to me how many people still haven't really, filled out a Google My Business profile and local businesses and kind of update that stuff regularly. Or if they do fill it out, maybe they just set it, forget it. They're not updating hours or specials or any of that type of stuff. I mean, it's a huge opportunity for you to get more traffic locally. I mean, people are on their phones looking for music and specials and hours and restaurants near me, and that's where that all comes from. So.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you think about that too, just making sure that even if you have it set up, when's the last time you looked at it? There's been changes over the year for that. Openness they've confirmed is a ranking factor. You can now have social media link management, which, I'm glad that we found that because it, defaulted to wrong links for us, so it's important to stay on top of that as everything is going, making changes. They are going to continue to update that. There's going to be more features, more reasons to use it. And, it's a great way to get your information, not only to Google, but everybody on Google looking for it. It's, there's other locations as well, too. Google isn't the only one out there.
Yeah, Facebook and Bing, and I even see Yelp still hanging in there quite often.
Yeah.
Well, Evan, we've talked about a lot. You got anything else to add?
No, I think I just want to reiterate, a little bit about 2024 and what's going to make the differences, you know, embracing changes, right, as they come, but paying attention to it, making sure that you're not just overlooking things that the basics and the things that are supposed to be done, just to keep chasing the new and, fun things for it. But the user behaviors are going to be changing. How much in 2024? Can't say for sure. Maybe it is, a few years out, but it is going to change. And I think as marketers, we need to pay attention to where the attention is coming from, how people are finding us, where people are going for information, and just making sure that we're there.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking if you don't have a goal-based strategy, give us a call. We'd love to talk about strategy and would love to help you. I think that's your biggest mistake going into 2024 is not having a plan and just kind of being reactive, not proactive. So
I agree. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, everything that is usually said at the end of a podcast. And thanks again.
have a good day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Foremost Media Marketing Chat podcast. If you want to stay on top of your marketing game, make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. For more episodes, show transcripts, and marketing insights, go to foremostmedia.com.